When this country decided as a matter of public policy to move from large state hospital institutions to community treatment, what really happened is the state hospital just was unbundled and redistributed in little places around big cities or rural communities without any fundamental questioning of the philosophical bases for these programs. There can be a chronic problem that someone is living with in their life, but they don't have to be poor. They don't have to turn to street drugs in order to feel better. They don't have to be alienated from their families. They don't have to be out of work. They don't have to live in little segmented ghettos. Those are not byproducts of mental illness. Those are byproducts of how we treat people in this culture that we identify as mentally ill. It's in this spirit that Progress Foundation has really dedicated itself to developing a whole range of community alternatives to hospitalization or incarceration for people who are in the mental health system. We started with a small halfway house back in 1969, and that one program has expanded now to include acute alternatives to hospital care in houses in the community, through transitional programs for a whole variety of clients, including the elderly, all the way to permanent housing, which the agency has built and is in the community for people who need affordable housing where they can stay perhaps for the rest of their lives. The agency, since the early 1970s, has taken on a larger, more aggressive objective. And I think, simply put, that objective now for Progress Foundation has been to develop services that will provide a way to eliminate, if possible, and reduce whenever possible, the use of institutional treatment for individuals who've been identified as having a severe mental illness. So our intention as an agency now is to look for program opportunities, to look for and develop a model of treatment services that becomes a community-based treatment ethic and practice that's distinct from and separate from the way in which treatment is offered in institutional and medical model settings. Simply put, in another way, I guess our goal at Progress Foundation in all of the levels of care that we provide and over the last 30 years of service development has been to introduce ways of actualizing rehabilitation and recovery as the primary ethic and practice of community mental health treatment. We reject the idea that our clients just have to be maintained. We reject the idea that the goal of mental health should be just to stabilize a crisis and then just provide minimal support for someone. What we embrace is the idea that every client who comes to us, no matter what their history, no matter how long they've been involved in the mental health system, every client should have an opportunity to actualize their dreams, to change and grow. And the only way to do that is to provide a variety of programs tailored to the needs of individual clients that emphasize recovery from mental illness, that emphasize to every client the possibility that they can move out of the mental health system and back into integration in the general community. And what that led us to at Progress Foundation in a very empirical way over time is to develop what we call a set of organizing principles of social rehabilitation that inform each of our levels of care, inform any of the services that we provide, and provide for us a touchstone to understand whether our programs are living up to their promise or not. And these basically fall into 5 areas and principles of treatment at Progress Foundation. That's why we open houses in Pacific Heights. That's why we won't go down to one neighborhood and stay there. That's why we insist on being small and integrated into neighborhoods. And that's why we insist on being a part of neighborhoods, even though most of the neighbors there, when they first hear about us, would like us to leave. But frankly, that's why we also push the mental health system to say you can't just keep putting people 30 miles away in an institution. You can't lock them up, turn them out, and have them go down to a Tenderloin hotel. If you have a client coming into the program hallucinating, but they don't know how to cook a simple meal, and they leave the program no longer hallucinating, but they still don't know how to cook a meal, we failed. But if they come into one of my houses hallucinating and unable to cook, and they leave the program still hallucinating, but they're able to prepare a meal to sustain themselves, that's a step towards success.
I think the environment of a home, of a program, is the key. When someone comes into the house, they realize that the environment, it's not a hospital setting, it's a home.
The environment, given that it's a house, everything there is everything you can find in a house. You know, there's a living room, a kitchen, bedroom. And the only thing that is different is that you're living with a group of people you don't know. And part of what happens is, given that it's a house, a lot of people's habits and behavior just comes out natural.
¿Y cómo te sientes aquí en esta casa?
Bien, bien, tranquilo. Sí.
He feels calm.
Salgo a pasear.
He's able to go out on outings.
También nos sacan a pasear. Sí. Es bonito aquí, me gusta.
He finds it very pretty and peaceful. It makes a big difference for someone to come and realize that they're going to be having a bedroom. They're not going to be having a hospital room. They're going to be having regular linens and sheets and bedspreads and a nightstand and a desk to write, and they're going to have a bathroom that they're going to be sharing, and realize that it's a home.
One thing we know for sure is that we are treating alienation and isolation when we serve people in the public mental health system. By virtue of their having been identified as different than and having been diagnosed, they've been pulled out of their normal context, and they've lived in a different, narrow world defined by treatment programs, sometimes homelessness in the street, sometimes jail. What Progress Foundation is trying to do with every one of its programs, from acute diversion to supported housing and the transitional programs in between, for every population, from the mothers with children to the seniors to the young adults, is to present environments where relationships can be learned again, where the whole action of living with other people, learning how to be with other people, is something that clients can practice, learn, and become strong in again, so that when they move back into community living, they are no longer as isolated and as lonely as when they first came to us. Residential treatment is uniquely capable of offering that social relational environment. Just living in your apartment by yourself with a case manager and knowing your bus route to your vocational program doesn't address isolation and loneliness. Just living in a board and care home where you sit endlessly for hours watching television without interaction or services doesn't address this problem. The challenge for community mental health and the challenge facing Progress Foundation is to find ways in treatment environments to reintroduce the idea of relationships, conversation, being with other people, and learning how to live in a community of people. So our residential treatment programs emphasize that opportunity to learn and interact, because after all, mental health treatment to me is about relationships. It's not just about medications and stabilization.
And they all talk to you, and they treat you with so much respect. You know, they work with it. This house is, man, I can't explain it. This is home. This is home, you know?
Yep.
Tell me why
Well, so there's a couple things that are very unique about this program. This is the only program in the state of California that's licensed to work with women with mental disabilities in an environment where they're allowed to have their children with them while they're receiving treatment and receiving parenting education. But there's nothing else that's a residential treatment program that allows adults and children to live together in the same building.
What's your name?
Star.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. people from or people that have been very institutionalized and in institutionalized settings, and we're trying to reorient them into the greater part of the world. And I think it's a great philosophy.
They've helped me to try to get into school, to work on my problems that I have with myself. They've set me up with, parenting classes, anger management classes. They've set me up with therapy, stuff like that. So they're doing a really good job.
Can I put it on the table? It's a very nice environment for my baby. If I live all by myself, maybe lonely. I don't like lonely. My baby can have it's a very good environment, and like a family is good for my baby.
Well, my name is Kimberly Jefferson, and I'm 19 years old, and I'm here because I so-called have a mentally ill problem. I don't think I have one, but I'm kind of in denial about that. And my daughter got taken away from me, and she's now in a foster care. And Progress Foundation is trying to help me get her back, and they're doing a very good job about that because I'm going to have her back next week. Yay!
When I saw a need, when I saw women who were being separated from their children because of their disability, because of their need for treatment, and raised that as an issue within the agency, I was respected, I was encouraged, I was respected and I was encouraged to turn an issue into a program.
They tell you about Ashbear, and you be like, oh my God, we're going to another program, with a lot of stuff, and you be thinking it's a mental facility. No. They'll show you the house first. They take you for the house and show you, you go up there, you look at the rooms, take you downstairs and show you the baby's room. And then you go outside, you look at the backyard, and it's clean.
This is outside what the kids play at. This is where the rooms are at.
This is their home. So when they come in here, they certainly want to feel safe. They don't want to feel stigmatized. They don't want to feel made to feel less than or dehumanized. So what I've learned, and I think the staff certainly are learning, is that just to learn some humility.
I don't believe that there's another agency that I've ever had contact with who would have done this program. When we began to talk about it and began to acknowledge the need for this kind of a program, I was a lowly program director. I hadn't even been working very long. And the administrative staff absolutely embraced, struggled to understand, ultimately did understand the need for the program, the importance of the program, and just took on a tremendous amount of conflict and a tremendous amount of responsibility to do something that was very hard to do, was very provocative, and it was very risky.
Yeah, when I was pregnant, I always used to say that my child will not live the life that I lived, and I still live by that. Yeah, she's in a foster home now, but this will be the first and the last foster home she will be in, because I refuse to have my daughter grow up not knowing who her mother is.
Another core principle of Progress Foundation service system is its two-part goal for the agency. One is that we provide flexible programs that respond to system changes, and within that flexibility, individualization of treatment planning. This goal for us is particularly important because it expresses the interrelatedness between what we're doing